What's up, guys? Good morning. Time for another difficult one, and this one might be the most difficult of all. And to a certain extent, I'm aware that at the end of the day, I may end up spending a lot of time trying to decipher something that ends up being relatively binary. I'm talking about Poona Ford here, and there's a lot to unpack here, but there's a strong possibility that when you finish unpacking it, you're looking at a vetmin contract. I do think that is a possibility here. Honestly, that's a possibility with a lot of the players that I'm going to be talking about in this series, but I'm going to do the best that I can anyway. And honestly, I think the range for a Poona Ford contract is very wide. And while I would not be shocked if there was just no money for him and what he did in 2022 ended up costing him whatever extension he may have otherwise earned, I do believe that if you compare what he's been doing in his career so far to other players, you can arrive at a fairly lucrative comp. So let's talk about Poona first real quick. 2022 was by far the worst season of his career so far. He changed positions. He was trying to play in this new 3-4 defense on a 3-man, sometimes 2-man line. And I mean, his stats were down probably a little bit overall. He actually had a career high in sacks with 3, but his tackles were down a little bit. More importantly, when it comes to talking about Poona Ford, you look at him and you say, well, he's kind of measured based off how your defense does, not so much his stats. He's not one of those players that is going to put up monster stats and impress everybody. And our defense was the worst it has ever been since Poona got here. Maybe it was close to as bad in 2019, but especially the run defense. And when you think about it, the Seahawks run defense in 2020 and 2021 was elite. We had one of the best run defenses in the league. 2022, it was terrible. So I think when you put that all together, it paints a pretty clear picture of where Poona is right now. Big reason why is that he had to change positions. And look, you can go to PFF, and they were not a big fan of what he did in 2022 either. They gave him a grade of 56, pretty bad. However, it was the first year he was trying to play in this new defense. And if you take a look at previous years, even 2021, when he was moved from the 1 tech to the 3 tech, wasn't as good. His grade was solid, 73. The year before that, in his natural position, he was an 82, borderline elite. 2019, still really solid, really effective against the run in particular. And back in 2018, he didn't play as much, granted, but it was a 90. So if a team goes out to get Poona Ford, they're going to be hoping they get that Poona. And that is a reasonable thought if you let him play 1 tech. I think we've had the opportunity to look at Poona enough to safely say he is meant to be a 0 tech in a 4-3 defense. I'm sorry, a 1 tech in a 4-3 defense. When you move him to 3 tech, he's just not enough of a pass rusher to do what he needs to do there. And playing him on the line in a 3-4 defense was just, it didn't work. It didn't go well. He didn't play very well. The defense didn't play well. I don't think he was a positive force on the defense. It was all bad. Now, that muddies the waters a little bit. Based off the way he played in 2022, he should be getting a minimum contract. But based off what he did before 2022, he should probably be getting something substantial. What I mean by that is, if you take a look at his current contract that he's on until March, the extension he signed 2 years ago was 2 years, a little more than $6 million a year. Call it 6.2. Now, could Poona Ford be worth that much or maybe even more to a team that is running a 4-3 defense, looks at him and goes, hey, this guy was awesome when they played him at 1 tech in a 4-3 defense. Therefore, we're going to make him a big offer. Whereas a team that isn't in the market for a 1 tech, isn't running that 4-3, might look at Poona and go, I can't do anything with him. Now, there's another wrinkle here. Poona Ford's undersized for a 1 tech. He's like 5'11 and 310 pounds. Most 1 techs are bigger. So there are going to be some teams that look at Poona and go, he's just too small. I can't work with him. We're running a 4-3. We know he's a good player, but my defense needs a bigger defensive tackle. So, no go. Put that all together, and it's really hard to figure out what this could be, but let's do the best that we can here. This is a list of every defensive tackle in the league sorted by average annual value. Now, Poona's not going to be anywhere near the top, obviously, Aaron Donald is basically in a tier by himself. You've got DeForest Buckner, Chris Jones. We're just going to keep going. Jonathan Allen, Kenny Clark, Fletcher Cox, DJ Reader, no, Javon Hargrave, keep going. DJ Jones, we're going to keep going. Malik Collins, not there yet. All right, let's start at Michael Brockers here. He signed a 3-year, $24 million deal with the Lions after 2020. Now, you look at Michael Brockers' stats as a player. He was with the Rams prior to going over to the Lions. It's a little Poona-ish. He puts up slightly better numbers, I would say. You look at his tackle numbers, you look at his sack numbers, his pressure numbers. He was a little bit better than Poona. Now, PFF didn't love him in 2020, but they gave him a slightly above average grade. And most importantly, he was on the 2020 Rams that were number 1 in the entire NFL in defense. So we're not there yet. Michael Brockers is like the upper level Poona. That's like Poona on his best day, I guess you could say almost. So let's keep going here. Let's take a look at Sebastian Joseph. Sebastian Joseph signed a 3-year, $24 million deal with the Chargers after 2021. So Sebastian Joseph Day, what did he do in 2021 to earn that contract? He was a Ram, and he only played half the year, but he did have 3 sacks in those 7 games, gave you almost 40 tackles, so it looked like he was on the verge, maybe on the brink of a big breakout season, and then he missed a bunch of games. And you can see that in 2020, he was a relatively solid player as well. You take a look at his PFF page for 2021, it was okay, nothing special. You go back and look at it for 2020, and please load PFF. Why do you do this to me? Why do you hate me? Okay, yeah, there we go. It was actually really good. And also, Sebastian Joseph Day was part of the team that won the Super Bowl the year before he got this contract with the Chargers. So therefore, there's a little bit of like a Super Bowl champion tax, I think. So let's keep going. Roy Robertson Harris signed after 2020 with the Jacksonville Jaguars, 3 years, basically $8 million. So we're actually dealing with 3 contracts here that are very much in the same ballpark. So Roy Robertson Harris, what did he do in 2020 with the Bears? He got hurt. He actually didn't play very much at all. So we got to go back to 2019, and you can see that, you know, he was decent stats-wise, 30 tackles, 2.5 sacks, 10 QB hits. Pretty decent player. Played for a defense that was okay, I believe. 2019, the Bears' defense was significantly worse than it was the previous year, but it was pretty good, I guess. And you can see that in 2019, his PFF grade was quite good, so we're still not there yet with Poona, I don't think. We got to go a little bit further here. We're not in the Poona range yet. Somebody like a Daquan Jones, maybe. How about Daquan Jones? Signed 2 years, $14 million, $7 million per with the Buffalo Bills after 2021. So 2021, he was still with the Titans. He played every game, 2 sacks, 50 tackles. You can see that there are a lot of defensive linemen that live in this area of just like having a few sacks throughout the season. They play a lot. They grind against the run. They're run stuffers. They pick up a few tackles a game. They don't do anything over the top, but they're solid, effective contributors. Excuse me. And Daquan Jones also fits that mold. You go back to 2020, which was the year before he signed the contract. Solid PFF grade. Okay, 67.4. So I think we've got to go just a little bit further to find the right comp for Poona Ford. So let's take a look here at Austin Johnson, who signed with the Chargers. We've got 2 years, $14 million, so basically the same contract as Daquan Jones. What did he do in 2021 to earn that contract? Let's take a look here. He was with the Giants. A terrible Giants team, mind you. 3.5 sacks, 72 tackles, so the stats are good. Stats are pretty good, but the Giants were a bad defense. There's no doubt about that. And Austin Johnson's PFF grade was unremarkable. So I think we're kind of there. I think we've kind of gotten into the right range here. Austin Johnson, you take a look at it. You take a look at what he did in his career as a Titan and then a Giant for a couple years. It's comparable to Poona Ford. Honestly, you could say that Poona maybe even did a little bit more over the body of his career as opposed to just looking at 2021, which ended up individually being a breakout year for Austin Johnson despite not necessarily making any big contributions to his team's success. and then he gets the 2 years, $14 million. Once you get past Austin Johnson, you pretty quickly get down to like Brian Monet. And I think we all know that Brian Monet did very little to earn his $5.5 million a year. He had a couple of flash moments, basically. Poona Ford's done way more than flash moments. So what I'm trying to say is I think that if a team looks at Poona Ford and they see the player who was there the first few years in the league before he was moved to 3 tech and then moved to defensive end in the new defense, I think we're kind of around here. I think you're looking at like 2 years, $12 million. Remember, there's inflation too because the cap has gone up since a lot of these deals. Actually, it's gone up since all of these deals. So I think Austin Johnson is like the ceiling for a Poona Ford deal because, again, Poona just had the worst year of his career by far, but still, if you look at a guy like Austin Johnson, what he had done so far in his career to get 2 years, $14 million, I think that if you're purely going off player comps, Poona Ford is probably right there at about 2 years, 13, 2 years, 12. Remember, last contract, it was 2 years, 12, essentially. And I know he just had his worst season, but at the same time, the cap has gone way up. Somebody is going to look at Poona probably and say he's still the player from 2020 and 2019. It's just stuff happens. In this case, the decision to move his position happened. And even in 2021, he was not a bad player. He just couldn't do all the things the new position required of him. So, Poona Ford, I'm going to say 2 years, $12 million, basically the same as his current contract. Would I offer him that? If we're going to stay in the 3-4 defense, the Vic Fangio defense, no. If we're going to go back to the 4-3 defense where he can be a 1-tech, I think so, yeah. I'm indifferent. I'm not married to it because I think you can get somebody better. I think you can get somebody cheaper, younger. I think you can definitely move on from Poona Ford, but this guy was really, really good as a 1-tech for a few years there, and then we started messing around with him a little bit, and I can't hold that against him. So if we do go back to the 4-3 under defense, the Pete Carroll defense, where Poona Ford was looking like, I don't want to call him a superstar, but he was looking like a really valuable player, I'll give him 2 years, $12 million. But I don't think we're going to. I think we're sticking to this 3-4 defense, the Fangio defense. Desai is still here for the moment. Clint Hurd is still here for the moment. And that being the case, I'm offering Poona Ford the veteran minimum, and that's it. I'm not going above the veteran minimum. In this defense, he just doesn't, he doesn't cut it. He doesn't have it. So that would be my evaluation. Assuming the defense is going to remain this, trying to move towards the Fangio defense, like we were in 2022, I'm not really offering Poona Ford much of anything. I said veteran minimum. He's probably worth veteran minimum just as a warm body who's relatively young. He's only 27. But unless we're going back to the 4-3, I'm not making him a real offer. Not an offer he should take. And I'll say it again. If a team looks at Poona and goes, he's still the guy from a couple years ago, they just moved his position, somebody's going to offer way more than the veteran minimum. I say 2 years, $12 million. All right, so that's the best I can do, but Poona's a tough one, man. Poona is a tough one. I did the best I could. At the end of the day, I can't imagine us bringing him back. It just didn't work out in the new defense. And I think he needs a fresh start somewhere where he can just do what he's good at. And there is some stuff he is really, really good at. All right, let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you guys see it a different way. As of right now, I'm offering Poona Ford the veteran minimum for 1 year. He can take that or he can go elsewhere. But there are some interesting options there, I guess. Let me know what you guys feel. Go Hawks. See you guys later today.